It's Tonya with Life with Tonya, and I'm back with another 2 Cent Tuesday where I share my thoughts and opinions on trending relationship topics and issues that I came across while strolling around online. And today's topic was actually suggested by YouTube. Apparently, it's a increased amount of searches going on where people are wanting to know how to keep their relationship strong under stress. And doing my research and trying to prepare for the topic, I learned that over 70% of couples report an increase in conflicts during stressful times. And so I will be sharing my 2 cents on the importance of maintaining a healthy relationship, especially during times of difficulties, as well as some of my tips and suggestions on how to maintain your relationship during stressful times. Now, if you are keeping up with the current times, then you are either aware of or impacted by the changes that are affecting our economy, our government, our jobs, livelihood, and more. All of these factors can cause stress and strain on a relationship. And when the cares of this world begin to weigh heavy on your shoulders, couples begin to lurk outside of the house in hopes of seeking comfort, clarity, and happiness. And the comfort, clarity, and happiness that I'm speaking of is men and women start to dibble and dabble in emotional and physical affairs. They begin engaging in addictive behaviors such as smoking, drinking, or porn. And sadly, domestic violence and emotional abuse increase during stressful times in a relationship. Now, although I have yet to experience a successful relationship, I do desire to get married one day. I have used the process of elimination to determine which characteristic traits in a man that will contribute to managing the success of our relationship, and which characteristics traits of a man that will not contribute to the success of our relationship. So of course I got a quick story time for you. Back in the day, I dated this guy who he only cared about himself. He only cared about his feelings, his goals, and he was a certified leech. He was only concerned about what he could get from the relationship, be it physical, financial, whatever. Now, of course, the characteristics didn't immediately reveal itself. You know how they say tough times reveal true character? Well, that is exactly what happened in my situation with this guy. What I would consider like a small disagreement that needed to be worked out through conversation and comprehension, he would escalate it to the point where names would be called and breakups would be needed. And his method for resolving conflict was to take time apart, whether it was weeks or months. He believed that resolving conflict just required taking time apart, and then we just eventually come back together as if nothing ever happened. And now, after so many rounds of this behavior, I was at the end of my rope. Like, I was done with this, and I knew that the last time was going to be the last time. So it was a regular moment where I mentioned something small to him that I did not like, and he wasn't trying to hear it out. He had no suggestions, input. He didn't even really go into questions like, what was wrong? How did I feel about it? How did we get here? What happened? I mentioned something small to him that he didn't like, and he suggested that we broke up, and I took his advice, which was the best advice ever. Now, some of the warning signs that I ignored in the beginning of the relationship that could have saved me the trouble of even having to go through this relationship. But some of the warning signs I ignored was how he never took into consideration the things that were important to me. And just things like a quick example that I can give you, like there were certain holidays or certain traditions that I wanted to celebrate, and it was always considered silly to him. So what was important to me was silly to him. And he always lacked accountability. As I described earlier, everything was always my fault, basically. Like just me suggesting something that I felt could have improved, he took offense to it as if it was an argument, and then he flipped that around and accused me of starting the argument, and also would accuse me for the breakup even though he suggested the break. So he lacked accountability. Everything was always my fault. And then he was one of those guys that set the stage as if he was the prize. Now, he's one of those guys that listen to these toxic male podcasts where they just give all guys the wrong advice on how to deal with women and whatnot. And so he genuinely had in his heart and mind that he was the prize for women. And so that should have been an instant red flag. But again, these traits didn't immediately reveal itself, but thank God they eventually did. So at the time that we were dating, I was in this unhealed space, and I actually believe that he was the prize at one point. And again, that's because of the unhealed space that I was in. But over time, thank God, God flipped the switch, and I realized that dealing with him was actually lowering my value. And it grew to the point where I felt embarrassed to be connected to someone with such insecure and childlike behavior. Like, he was not an adult at all. Like, he had the body of an adult and the physical characteristics of an adult, but he was not an adult at all. Like, he had the capacity of maybe a 10-year-old boy, the way that he conducted himself in relationships. Like, he had full-on temper tantrums, and it was a mess. So, on top of just being embarrassed and felt like he was lowering my value, overall, my nervous system was becoming dysregulated. Like, I was having anxiety and panic attacks just being around this guy. And so, speaking of dysregulated nervous system, I learned that sometimes trials and tribulations occur in our life because we are with the wrong person. Like, God is trying to grab your attention so that you can see that the person that you are desperately trying to hold on to is not the person that God has assigned you to be with. And several years ago, like maybe shortly after I had ended things with this guy, one of my pastors quoted this Bible verse in a way that made practical sense, like this light bulb just went off. And so I use that Bible verse to measure the quality of my friendships and relationships still to this day. And so what he said was, a blessing from God is supposed to make you rich and will not cause you any sorrow. And it's not just rich as in financial rich, but a blessing from God is supposed to bring you peace and calm in your life. God blessing resolve problems and not create problems. And so how I use that to measure my relationship with the guy, if I'm dating someone and I'm doing more crying than laughing, or I'm losing more money and resources than I'm gaining money and resources, or I'm experiencing back-to-back losses and increased amount of stress, then in the words of K-Camp, it's time to cut them off. You know that song by K-Camp, ain't nothing cut them off. Like, I also live by that motto as well. It's time to cut them off. But for others of you, you know, you may be in the right relationship, right person, right time, and you're just going through a little bit of turbulence right now. Then I have some stuff that I have learned through my trial and error phases to help you get through the stressful times in your relationship. And my first suggestion would be to be empathetic toward your partner's fears and concerns. Like, going back to what I said earlier about some of the things that's happening in our government and our jobs and livelihood and things of that sort. You know, there's a lot of work-related stress that people are impacted by right now. And of course, you know, if you're having issues at work, then you're at risk for losing your job. And if you lose your job, you're at risk of being able to financially provide for your family. And so that is a stressful situation to be in, and having to constantly worry about how to maintain the performance of your job, or if you're even going to have a job tomorrow. So right now it's important more than ever to be empathetic toward your partner's fears and concerns. Let them know that you guys are a team and you can get through any situation together. And it has to be together, you know, not just one person trying to get through it alone while the other person is still out trying to have the best time of their lives. You know, it's a group effort. Be empathetic toward your partner's fears and concerns, and let them know that you guys are a team. And my next suggestion is to not share any private information about your partner and your relationship with social media or any other unsupported family and friends. So going back to the incident with the job, you could probably be just casually venting to a person that you think is a friend. Like, yeah, my husband or my partner, he's going through some things in his job right now. Blah, 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 woo, woo, woo. And the next thing you know, this person that you thought you were confiding in has twisted the story and spreading all types of rumors that you guys are going bankrupt. You guys have hit a financial wall, and you guys done got fired from each other's job. And those rumors does nothing but put negative energy out there in the atmosphere, and so it creates a bad space for your relationship. And that's just something that you don't need to deal with if you're already going through a stressful time in your relationship. So be careful about sharing private and personal information on social media or to unsupported family and friends. And my next suggestion is to not use any vulnerable information that your partner has confidently shared with you. Do not use any vulnerable information against them in arguments. And going back to the job information again, let's just say your partner was able to reveal in confidence that he is concerned about his performance and he feels like he's not doing anything right on the job. And he's just really concerned about his future at the company. And then the minute you guys get into an argument, you turn that situation around and throw it up in his face as if, well, that's why you're about to get fired from your job, because you don't listen, blah, blah, blah. Like, that can negatively hurt your relationship in a bad way, to where your partner doesn't want to ever open up to you again about personal, vulnerable things. And my next suggestion, or my last suggestion, is to create a time for togetherness. Now, some people think togetherness is all about sex, and intimacy is more than about connecting bodies. And if finances is some of the reasons why you're having a stressful time in your relationship, then utilize TikTok or some of these social media platforms to come up with some creative ways on how you and your partner can emotionally reconnect. Like set aside to communicate and just bond together, laugh, and enjoy a good time without having to worry about bills and other situations. So if you are going through a stressful time in your relationship and you utilize some of my suggestions, please come back to the comment section and let me know what you did or did not work for you. And to everybody else, this is your opportunity to deposit your 2 cents into the comments. What are some of your suggestions to keep a relationship healthy during stressful or difficult times? And as always, if you enjoy these types of talks, please like, share, and subscribe to boost the engagement and support my efforts of becoming a monetized channel. Until next time.